Hi, and welcome back to Zoo Atlanta. I'm Daniel Benbow, and this is Alan, a 36-year-old Sumatran orangutan. What do you think about when you see this guy? Maybe you're curious, interested, even amazed. But have you ever thought about what he thinks about when he sees you? There's no way to know for sure, but you can be certain of one thing. Humans aren't the only ones learning and observing at the zoo. When it comes to Alan here, it's not so much what he's thinking, but how he's thinking. How does he learn and grasp new concepts? How much does he remember about the concepts he already knows? The more we know about how animals think and learn, the better we can understand them, both here at the zoo and in the wild. Join me for some food for thought that will boggle your mind. Wild animals are constantly faced with challenges in their natural environments. Unexpected situations like a shift in food availability or sudden appearance of a predator could cost an animal its life. So the ability to respond and adapt is crucial. Animals are natural problem solvers, and zoo animals do best when they're mentally stimulated, thinking and investigating new situations. How do we track the way different animals think, learn, and process information? Here in the zoo, training is one of our most effective ways of doing just that. When we say training, we don't mean that we're teaching the animals to do tricks. What we're actually doing is allowing our animals to participate in their own care. As an accredited member of the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, Zoo Atlanta manages comprehensive training programs for nearly all the animals in the collection, from big cats to great apes, giant pandas, and even reptiles. Zoo residents engage in positive reinforcement training based on a three-part formula of cue, behavior, and reward.
So this is our female black rhino, Rosie. She's been here at the zoo since 1990, and we do a lot of training with her because obviously they're very large animals. We don't want to anesthetize them if we don't have to. And so there are various things that if we can teach them to do it voluntarily, it helps us a great deal and it helps them a great deal. One of those things is targeting. It's the main thing. What I'm using here is a bridge. And the bridge tells Rosie that there's food coming. It allows me to reward her very quickly, target, and let her know very quickly as opposed to having to shove the food into her mouth. These guys are, well, they're huge. You know, Rosie here weighs about 2,400 pounds, and if she doesn't want to do something, we can't make her short of anesthetic. And when you're dealing with anesthetic, there are dangers all by themselves of just using drugs on humans and animals. And then with an animal like this, even if she was fully anesthetized, how do we move her around? How do we get her to be where we want her to be? Good girl, good girl. So what we would do in a blood draw scenario is actually have a block then that she would be stepping up on, target. Good girl, Rose, target. And then we would go to the opposite leg with the needle. Teaching her to do it voluntarily stimulates her brain. It gives her an enriching experience. It gives us an enriching experience. It makes the vet staff's life a whole lot easier because they can just schedule a time to come on down, you know, get Rosie in the tea or whatever. We'll draw some blood. They're down here for 10 minutes and they're gone. Good girl.
Positive reinforcement training keeps animals active and interested.
Hi, babies.
And helps to ensure a safe environment. Training also makes the jobs of zoo veterinarians significantly easier.
We allow the gorillas to come up, and if they want to, they can participate in a training program. They don't have to come up and do anything if they don't want to, but generally they really like to come up, and it's fun for them to interact with us, and they get treats for it, so it's really not that bad. Who wouldn't want to work for a bunch of grapes? We train mostly to help out with veterinary care, so we don't really teach them tricks and stuff like you would your dog. We teach them things like presenting basic body parts, so if I ask for their shoulder or their foot or their thigh, they'll put it directly up to the mesh so that we can get a really good look at it. Good boy, Taz. Yes. In the wild, when animals get sick, they hide it because it's survival of the fittest. You don't want to show anyone that you're weak and you're injured. So they don't tell us when they're not feeling well. They don't tell us when they're hurt. We try and get a good look at these guys every day so that it's just part of the routine. Your nose? We also train for injections. So these guys all learn how to take a needle because just like people, they can get a lot of diseases we can get. So they get their flu shot every year.
One important aspect of training is getting us, the veterinary staff, heavily involved. Part of the reason is, for instance, with the apes, most of the time when they see the veterinary staff is because something is going to happen. They're going to get anesthetized, they know they're not feeling well, and they tend to associate someone from the veterinary staff with something bad happening. What we're doing here at Zoo Atlanta is incorporating the veterinary staff with the keeper training work so they see us in many different scenarios. For instance, when we're doing gorilla training, I try to come twice a day and be there with the keeper, and they also allow me to do some of the training so they know they're seeing me during a training session. They know that nothing bad is going to happen, and they come to trust us. So by doing that and by working closely with the keepers, we can ensure that the animals are going to respond to us in a very positive way.
There's a lot that humans can teach animals, but don't underestimate the value of what animals can also learn from other animals. Meet some of the zoo's best creature teachers when Wild Explorer returns. Which animal stays with its mother longer than any other animal, except humans? Just like humans, animals learn throughout their lives. It might not be the academic sort of learning you and I are accustomed to, but that doesn't mean there aren't pop quizzes and final exams in the wild. We already know wild animals have to keep track of an enormous amount of information, and mistakes can be costly. How do animals know what they know? It's not all instinct, and it's not all trial and error. For many animal species, there's someone else there in the beginning, someone very important, Mom. The extent to which animal parents are involved in the rearing of their offspring differs from species to species. Many reptiles, like snakes and turtles, are on their own from the time they hatch. Mammal babies, on the other hand, are dependent on their mothers for food, warmth, protection, and important survival skills. All needs that necessitate an extended stay with mom. Some species, and one in particular, stretch that stay out for quite a while. Second only to humans, no animal has a longer childhood than the orangutan.
An orangutan mother keeps their young with them for about 8 years, which is the longest time any mammal keeps their baby with them in the wild. There's so much to learn. Years and years and years ago, babies that weren't raised by their mothers were raised by humans. So what we do now is try to get it back with an orangutan as soon as possible so it learns how to be an orangutan from an orangutan. Give a card. You know, orangutans in the wild live 70, 80 feet up the ground in trees. They really rarely come onto the ground. So when orangutan babies are born, they have got to cling immediately or they will obviously fall out of the trees. They've got to learn how to test those limbs to make sure it can hold their weight. And then the other main thing, orangutans are fruit eaters, and they're not just looking for bananas. There's actually over 400 different food items that orangutans eat in the wild. And their mothers need to show the babies which ones are good to eat. They have to show them where in the forest and at what time of the year they're going to ripen. So there's many different things for survival that the mothers have to teach their infants.
Maintaining environments that permit maternal care and facilitate enriching interactions among social species is one way that Zoo Atlanta encourages natural animal behavior. Outside of Africa, Asia, or Latin America, the zoo is a visitor's best opportunity to see animals behaving as if they were in the wild. The majority of the zoo's animals were born in zoological institutions, and many are several generations removed from the wild. An animal's best teacher might be another animal, but there are ways that training can help zoo-born individuals learn wild behaviors. One training program at Zoo Atlanta actually helped bring a species back from the brink of extinction.
The Golden Lion Tamarin Free Ranging Program is a program that was set up originally to train these animals to be more wild so they could go back to Brazil and be reintroduced into the rainforest. Each family group that gets reintroduced into Brazil is monitored for the rest of their life. So at least one animal in the group maintains a radio tracking collar so that the researchers can track them for the rest of their life, because it is an ongoing research project. We continue to do it today as an enrichment program for the animals and also as a conservation education program for our visitors. The animals are allowed to come out into this open area without any type of enclosures or caging or anything like that. And they are able to run around in this open area, find different pathways through the free-ranging habitat to find food, experiment running on, flimsy branches and things like that. It's a very unique exhibit here at Zoo Atlanta. Zoo Atlanta became involved in the program in 1992, so we've been doing it continuously for 15 years now. And it's been such a successful program that the animals that they have released back into Brazil are replenishing the population on their own, and so they don't see a need to continue reintroducing animals. It's a very expensive procedure, and so it's much more cost effective to let the animals take care of themselves and create their own sustaining population.
Who's the zoo's smartest animal? You might be surprised by the answer. Who's the zoo's smartest animal? It's not a trick question, but the answer really is that there's no such thing as smartest here. When we talk about animal thinking and learning, it's important to remember that we're not identifying some animals as smart and others as dumb. As humans, we have our own set of qualifiers for intelligence, so it's tempting to try to apply those same standards to animals. But as people committed to understanding and learning more about the animals in our care, we should avoid that pitfall. Each species is uniquely, supremely adapted to its own environment. In the wild, different species have different challenges and strategies for survival, and this is one reason why the learning curve varies so much across the animal kingdom. Zoo Atlanta is a recognized leader in the field of animal behavior research. Research projects on grounds and around the world, and peer-reviewed articles by zoo staff in books and scientific journals have placed the institution firmly on the map as a valuable contributor to the global zoo community. To find out more about how certain animals process information, experts and colleagues here at the zoo have taken on groundbreaking new projects with some amazing results.
Well, the Orangutan Tree Learning Project started a few years ago, really just for some extra enrichment for the orangutans. So it was an in-house project. We built this tree, and inside the tree there's some enrichment items. There's a water squirter that the orangutans can squirt. There's some feeding tubes that they can use natural behaviors to try to get their food out. But the main part of the tree is a touch frame computer. Orangutans are one of the most highly intelligent primate species there is, and it's really hard to keep them busy and stimulated. So we had some fun games set up for them using an old joystick program, and it just kind of worked its way into the new technology with touch frames. And we can do many things with the orangutans using this touch frame, and now the public gets to see them use the computers, and it's great. We have some things where the orangutans can actually paint pictures, where they can change colors and drag their finger across the screen, do little finger paintings, and also up to like a concentration game, a memory game. And this memory game we call Match to Sample, and it's what our research group is really trying to focus on to learn more about the orangutans in the wild. Orangutans, they're solitary animals in the wild, but when they're in zoos, they're very social. So there's all kinds of things that go on in their brains, and we thought, well, let's just see how it works. So we're going to show them different orangutan pictures and maybe mix them up some and see if they can remember and pick them out. So there's quite a lot of different things that we can do with this. What Zoo Atlanta wants to get out of this project is use it for an awareness for people to say, that was kind of cool, that's really neat, that there's an animal out there that has the brain capacity to use a computer, and maybe want to learn more about orangutans, and maybe want to learn more about their plight in the wild. And orangutans are really one of the most highly endangered ape species out there now. Great apes, expect them to be extinct in the wild in the next 10 to 15 years. So really anybody, any interest that people can get and go a little further, that would be awesome. You know, even just one person that goes somewhere and says, hey, there might be something I can do to help orangutans would be totally worth it for this project.
Zoo Atlanta is one of only a very few institutions in the U.S. where kids can come face to face with an unusual animal with a rhyming name. What is it? The answer in some close encounters of the animal kind when Wild Explorer returns. Those unusual animals with the rhyming names. If you've met Butterfinger, Oreo, or Heath, you know the answer. They're the Kune pigs. Kune pigs are one of 5 different animal species here in the Outback Station Petting Zoo. And it's easy to see why this is such a popular destination. But it's also a great example of an entire group of Zoo Atlanta animals who learn and train especially for close encounters with humans. Since they were babies, the zoo's Kune pigs, Boer goats, Nubian goats, Nigerian dwarf goats, and the Gulf Coast sheep have been trained for hands-on interactions with children. Having the opportunity to come face-to-face with creatures they might never see outside the zoo gives young guests a personal learning experience that's hard to top in books or television.
This is Mandela, our milky eagle owl.
Sometimes those opportunities are swooping right over our heads. At Zoo Atlanta's Wildlife Theater, audiences of all ages get an exciting bird's-eye view of the advanced training behaviors of flying stars from around the world.
This is Cortez. Cortez is a big part of our show. Cortez is an 18-year-old blue and gold macaw. And Cortez, believe it or not, he's been here since he was about 9 months old, and he's educated millions of people. He has some animal impressions. Y'all want to hear those? Yeah. Okay, Cortez, let's see. Cortez can do his, can you do your kitty kitty? Very good. Can you do your dog? It's a sick dog, but it's a dog. And he can do his turkey? Very good. And how about your billy goat? Very nice. Good job, Cortez. We train our animals at the Wildlife Theater show using a lot of trust, and that trust coupled with a lot of habituation, which is basically doing the same thing over and over, utilizing introductions, slow-paced introductions, where we introduce ourselves to the birds, we introduce our birds to us, we introduce our birds to this environment, which eventually we want to be their territory, and so it's a huge process. Have you ever seen a bird paint? It's the first time. This is the only bird you'll ever see paint, to our knowledge, the only crow that's been trained to paint in the world. All right, so you guys are seeing something very unique, and y'all got to see it up close and personal. What do you think? Pretty cool? Yeah. Onyx, come on. All right, what do y'all think? So, who wants a painting? Anybody? Great, you can go buy one in the gift shop. When we can get that trust involved, and we can get them to trust us and us to trust them, they'll do things like say hello. Can you say hello? Hello. Very good. Among other things, and free flying in our show and doing other things that we ask them to do. That's all natural behaviors. We don't ask them to do anything that's not normal for them in their life. Very good. A lot of our guests come to our show and sometimes haven't even seen animals up close, much less seen people work with animals and have that human-animal connection that we're always trying to pass along. And you know, the more people know, the more they're going to appreciate, the more they're going to want to conserve. So that's our mission. So if we can do that, we touch adults, we touch the kids, and the kids come to us and say they want to be keepers when they grow up. And we've watched some children grow up around here. They come to our shows constantly, which lets us know that we're doing our jobs. And so who knows, the kids that come to our shows constantly like that and so fired up about seeing the animals, hopefully we've touched them enough giving them enough of a connection to animals that they can make the right decisions when it comes to the environment. And they might be the next Jane Goodall, who knows? We're here to inspire, and so far we've done it pretty well, I think.
Now who's the one having to keep track of a lot of information? We've seen how some of our animals think and learn, and we've seen some of the ways humans can learn more about how they do that. We've told you how we do it, and we've told you how well we do it, but we haven't told you why we do it. Take Alan here. He's a thinker, he's a problem solver, and he's a complete individual. Those things alone should interest us, but there's something else. The guy's got genes. According to the Species Survival Plan, he's the most genetically valuable orangutan in North America, and his kind is in danger of vanishing from the wild. If you look at it that way, Alan's pretty special. They're all pretty special. Every time we learn something new about any of the hundreds of animals here at the zoo, we're taking one more step towards making sure that each of these species will still be with us for generations to come. All right, so I don't know what he's thinking, but I can take a pretty good guess at what you're wondering. What time does the zoo close? It's time to come on over. I'll see you here.
We hope that you've enjoyed watching some of the ways that animals of Zoo Atlanta think and learn. Check out the All-Stars of the Wildlife Theater Show and all the other amazing animals at Zoo Atlanta today. For more information and tickets, visit zooatlanta.org.